Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Electricpreneur Secrets, the Electrician's podcast. Joe, do you know this is episode 107 already?
My God, how does that happen so fast? It literally almost feels like this is our baby in a way, and where you're saying like I was just cradling it in my arms. It feels like a moment ago, and here we are, 3 digits later in the amount of episodes. It's
It's
insane.
crazy. It is wild.
Mhm.
Thank you for that contribution. And I'm letting you know that if you haven't gone back to the beginning and listened right fresh from the beginning, then I got to tell you, there was 3 episodes in there that weren't this format. They were just interviews with some great guys. I do encourage you to listen to those, but it was even called a different name back then. But that
Mhm.
means by law of just simple subtraction that we've had 104 episodes of trying to help electricians master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level electrical. Sorry. As soon as I see your arm going with
I
that,
saw it. It was like
cadence,
it was. I was
I like to throw
going
the
for
extra
it.
word in there and mess you up. Okay, that's fun. So, just before the show, we were talking about something to help people out. Zach Bennett's with us in the Facebook community, live and VIP. If you're listening to this
Mhm.
on the podcast and you're not part of the Facebook group, please give it a look. Give it a chance because you could be engaging with us in there, getting shout outs, sharing wins, and being parts of the conversations. And Zach Bennett today is sharing a little secret he's got in the back pocket called the best postcards. Now, if you look that up, I think it's a website, and what they're going to help you do is actually retarget areas. Maybe if you made a sale in a neighborhood,
Mhm.
and maybe it was a fairly wealthy neighborhood. In Zach's case, he's a Kohler dealer, did a generator or had a lead for a generator, whatever the case may be, and was able to then target 1,000 every door direct mailers around that address. Couple principles
Mhm.
there that are strong. We might as well talk about this for a moment, right?
Can't wait. Let's get into it.
How about the keeping up with the Joneses effect? Joe, have you ever heard about that?
I honestly love that expression because the thing is, it's same thing as grass is greener on the other side, right? You see some, and it's also one of the reasons why our good neighbor policy is so effective.
Good
Door to the
neighbor.
left, door to the right, and across the street. When we see someone, like imagine your neighbor has this nice, beautiful lettered truck in their driveway, and you see technicians running all over the place, and everyone's smiling and happy, shaking hands. You're sitting there like, what are they doing? I want some of that. It's like, what are you selling? Girl Scout cookies? What's happening? You want to know. So
Law of
why not take
attraction there.
action on it?
Little
Exactly.
law of attraction, yeah. FOMO, you know what that
Fear of
one
missing
stands
out.
for, right?
Yep, you told me that one. Fear of missing out.
That's crazy. So if you knew in the next power outage that your neighbor down the block was going to have full power, you could see their lights on literally while you're in the dark.
Mhm.
Wouldn't that drive you nuts a little bit?
Actually, yes, but I had one customer that I'll never forget because he told me that he intentionally wanted to have everything backed up and add lights to his generator system so that everyone would know that he had power and they didn't because he hated his whole neighborhood.
Likes to be the best. Hey, some people chase significance. That's what
Yep.
they want, that difference, right? So this could be a
Mhm.
superpower for you guys as well. And there's more than just keeping up with the Joneses. Now, what if, like Joe said, because of that good neighbor feel, you've
Mhm.
got a new lead, as Zach definitely has had a few already, and you show up there with, armed with on your iPad or even in paper if you had to, go old school, pictures of the installation you did for John Smith just a road
Mm.
away, just blocks away. We did this for John. Here's the options he selected. Here's why. Joe, is there some superpower in that?
So I can see that having the pictures would definitely be very helpful. It would be interesting figuring out how to word best, letting them know which options the neighbor selected. Just because I can imagine some people might be like, well, I want to know how much he paid.
Mm,
But at the same time, what I would like to see is I tell them why we did it.
mm,
Hey, I want to let you know that we recently installed a generator system for Zach's family. The reason why we did that was we were told, and we've been familiar with this area, and we know you guys frequently lose power. So when the last power outage happened, he lost all this food. And I want to make sure that you guys don't have to experience that same thing. Would I be wrong to offer my services?
of course not. Of course not.
Top of the brain.
There you go. And Zach just contributed back in the chat here, and I got to share this comment. He says, well, maybe we should put a neon ZB Electric sign on every home we do a generator install on out the front so that all the neighbors see.
I mean, even better is if you make it hardwired only to the ATS
Yeah,
so that it only, and put it on the load shed module. So it only comes on when you're on generator power. It's like,
point
hey, you got lights
exactly.
on here.
100%. Yeah, that would be awesome, Zach. So just go ahead, throw that in the front window, little ZB Electric. So everyone else is out of power and they get to see you lit up. That's awesome.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, and Isaiah's contributing too, says do a bat signal that shines on the house. We're going full
Exactly.
Batman now.
I would love that. Get a 700,000 watt LED corn on the cob light with a turret on the top of the roof and just blast the clouds. Be like, ZB, there we go.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. To the problem at hand. Today we're talking about an emergency in your electrical business, and it's a very important one to discuss. If
Mhm.
you've ever been on a call with me interested in our training and what we do on the inside track, it's likely that we may have had this exact conversation. It's why it's so important. I
Mhm.
wanted to bring it right to the surface.
Mhm.
Talked around this in different ways, Joe, but never quite this direct. Guys, I need you to know this is an emergency in your business if you are overworked and underpaid.
Amen to that. I
How
feel like
would
not enough
we?
people know what that means, though. Can you dive into it a little bit?
Well, exactly. And I was just going to lead with a question. How would we begin to recognize the symptoms of this?
I
And
got that off the top of my
okay, please. Yeah,
head.
let's jump into the problem a bit.
All right. So speaking, let's take today's season right now, right? I'm in New York. We have 90% humidity. It's 90 degrees right now. I can only imagine spending a day digging in a trench or cutting in a pool installation. And you've got the next 2, 3 weeks already booked out. But the problem is those next 2, 3 weeks, you sold at your slow rate and you're just catching up from all the rush that happened from fall or from early spring. Now you get a call that comes in and you know it's a good one. An existing customer comes by and says, hey, Joe, I really loved what you did. I know I love the generator you installed previously, but we're actually having some other things going on. I'm hoping you could take on a renovation. I only want to work with you, but I need it done in the next couple of weeks.
Hmm.
You know you're committed. You're out several weeks on jobs that are not making you money, and you're forced to do one of two things. Either start killing yourself to take on the work that you want, or you have to turn away the profitable work to meet your obligation, or in the worst case, decline some of the work you already have. What do you do there? It's like you feel almost want to bang your head against the wall until something comes out.
Yeah. And a lot of times when we're talking to business owners, electricpreneurs in this situation, it seems like it can be difficult to even recognize what's really happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to point out something that we call the law of open cycles. And here's really the rule of thumb for the law of open cycles. The law of open cycles just states that the things left undone, the things left open, those are vampires to our livelihood. And what that really means is overwhelmed, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Ever felt overwhelmed? Hey, go ahead, you guys. If you're driving down the road, if you're
Two
typing
hands.
with two hands on the keyboard, go ahead, throw a hand up and just say it. Hey, I've felt overwhelmed. That's okay. But it's
Mm-hmm.
more than just admitting to it, it's recognizing what overwhelm does to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, going back to that law of open cycles, what it does, what that means, that vampire to your livelihood, that means that it's sucking the energy from everything you're doing because we've got too much open, right? If you've ever not had, and Joe, I know you, the answer to this, if the internet speed in your house has ever been less than a gigabyte a second, maybe you're on the 100, 200, 300, 400 plan as it's come up over the years, and you've had
Mm-hmm.
too many devices streaming in the house, what happens?
You know very well that things are just going to cut out or they're going to slow to a crawl. And it is one of the most frustrating things. First world problems, slow internet.
Absolutely. And no one truly gets the quality of video streaming, whatever they're streaming, that they
Mm,
desire. That's kind of like the law of open cycles. So everything you're working on suffers.
mm,
Everything. Now, here's where the emergency part comes in, because a lot of you are saying, well, yeah, that happens 3/4 of the year to me. How many of the invoices that you have stacked up are overdue? Like, what needs to be sent? Is your
Mm-hmm.
bookkeeping adding up? We talked to one of our clients the other day who said he was behind on invoicing on like 20 invoices, right? Let's just talk about that for a second. What happens when your clients don't get billed right away?
Honestly, one of the biggest things that happens is it becomes out of sight and out of mind for that client, because in their mind, they had a problem. You solved the problem. Their desire was at peak as soon as everything was done, you shook their hand. But every single day after that moment, they're now focused on tomorrow's problem. They're not thinking about the previous problem. So, in all honesty, they'll forget that they even owe you money, even if it's not malicious. It'll be like, I'm sorry, it just slipped my mind. I'm doing this now.
Absolutely. And your reputation starts to sink along with the thoughts of what they owe you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't make it a priority, will they?
No. Why would they? The free
Right.
electric work, right?
So that's one simple piece from that. The second is to have earned money and then not gone and received payment is a very dangerous place to be in business.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer that we leave these cycles open, the less likely we are to actually check them off. You can literally feel a gap growing. Even in, hey, I'm no angel. I'm not perfect. I've got a list here too with some things that are overdue. That's this whole law of open cycles. We're going to talk through a lot of this today. But those overdue things, you can feel the gap growing.
Mm-hmm.
Every moment it's not taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
every day that it doesn't get checked off, the gap grows and you become less and less likely to get it done and more likely to excuse it from the table again. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense, Joe?
It really, really does. And for any of you guys that are trying to process what this means, I want to break it down even more granular if possible. If you're in a circumstance to where you're trying to get something done, some of us experience anxiety when things aren't handled. So let's say, sake of argument, you had to get something done and it's on your list. If you don't cross it off, the feeling grows. And even worse than that, so much so, you'll start to even resent that it's even there. And now you're upset about the thing you should have been doing in the first place. You'll start to bury it and not see it just so that you don't have to take action on it. Now, I'm speaking from a personal example because for anyone who's got anxiety or depression, it's a real thing that happens. But at the same time, if you let it go, that's your money. You're floating away. Why won't you take the action on it? Just take what is owed to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we got Jason in the group saying, quit talking about me with a laughing face. Zach put his hand up too. Guys, I know, and I'm going to address this again. I know that when we speak on here quite often, it feels
Mm,
like it's a dagger piercing your own heart, and it might feel like we're calling you out direct. And the reason that is because so often the topics that we discuss come right from the conversations we're having with
mm,
actual electricpreneurs out there with real electricpreneur problems working through this stuff every day,
mhm.
right? Would it be wrong of us to want to talk about those most relevant topics,
Not at all. In fact, I feel like it would be a dishonor if we didn't.
right? Okay. So, this law of open cycles, of course, there's an order to it. But what we're talking about right now and what we just covered really was that, okay, what if we're delaying getting paid?
Mm,
What about now we're delaying getting quotes out? So now we're affecting future work too,
mhm,
right? What if the jobs we're on currently are taking longer than estimated and they start to push the schedule out? And now we're not updating clients on those schedule changes. So now we show up late. And now every interaction we're having is either disappointment in ourselves or disappointment from others.
yeah.
Ouch.
Can I throw one extra thing into that?
Please do.
To take it even deeper, and I don't mean to cut you guys in the heart, but I know this is what you might feel because I know I felt it. The longer you take to build a presentation, the harder and harder it becomes to build that presentation.
Mm.
because the best presentations are done when you have a strong because. I did this for you because. But the more time happens, it's not like things aren't happening in your life. Eventually, we're like computers. You have a file or memory stored, and then as life happens, it overwrites it. So now you remembering why they needed to have the electronic safety system, why they absolutely needed to have the closet lights changed, it's gone. And your presentation won't be on code. So not only do you delay doing it, you reduce your chances of even getting the job.
Yeah, I get that. And I get that during my 20s, I was also like a computer. You had to punch in the information.
I've never heard
Okay.
that one before, but I love it.
Corny
That's
joke of
awesome.
the day. There it is, Joe.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
All right. So here's the thing. If you're in this state of overwhelm, guys, and I'm going to do a direct plug here, if you haven't yet considered a CRM and what a CRM can do for you, then this would be a time to really consider the benefits of some automation and
Mhm.
delegation. There's likely 2, 3, maybe even 4 problems contributing to this overwhelm and underpaid state. So, Joe, do you want to talk through some of the solution a bit now?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay. And the benefits. So, first and foremost, I want to say I'm a huge advocate of CRMs, client
Mhm.
relationship management software. If we're talking about an app like House Call Pro, who did not pay me to say that yet,
Yet is the operative word.
um, what that CRM will do for you, first and foremost, is communicate. One of the all-time sacrifices in and from someone in overwhelm is communication.
Mhm.
Nothing gets delayed more than communicating at the frequent intervals that are required to maintain a healthy relationship and an understanding between two people. So I'm going to go a level deeper on this, Joe, and say we talk about sometimes the value driver framework and how
Mhm.
time delay and effort and sacrifice are two things we're looking to rid of our clients' hands.
I would agree with that completely.
Rid from our clients' hands, maybe is better.
Rid from their plate. Take off their
Yeah.
plate. Yeah.
So when it comes to time delay, there's a really important thing we need to understand. It's not just the physical manipulation of time that we have control over.
Mhm.
And there's only so much we can do to reduce time until we arrive, to reduce time until it's fixed, to reduce time until your kitchen circuit works again.
Mhm.
There's only so much we can do because we got those schedule things we were working on last week, 2 weeks ago, right?
Mhm.
But that's all actually physical time. There's also another concept of mental time. And the difference
Mental
is
time.
simple. You talked about anxiety earlier.
Mhm.
Who's ever had time anxiety,
Oh my God. Two
right?
hands.
Here's
Both
a
going
great
up.
example. You ever pulled up to the petrol station? You're going to get some gas, and there's a lineup at every pump. It's just one car, but I don't wait for gas. I'm going to a different gas station, even if I have to pay an extra couple cents a gallon, couple
Yep.
cents a liter. You ever done that?
Unfortunately, too often than I like to admit, I feel like patience is a limited quantity that you have to dole out whenever you can.
I'm going to give you the ultimate hack. Gas stations could actually do this, and it would create more traffic. Put a clock up right above that pump of how complete they are in filling up. Just a clock or a meter, like a full meter. The pump already knows what they paid, and so it could do a quick calculation of how much is in the tank. And it could display 75, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84%. Now you don't have this hindrance of not knowing how much time you're waiting, and you solved the psychological problem of time delay by just knowing that, hey, he's 10% away. They'll be done in a minute. I can do this.
Holy shit. Did you like literally? I had never thought of that idea. And just thinking that if they had that would solve that problem completely. Because I'd be
Yes.
like, oh, I've got about 3 minutes. I could watch one YouTube video. Or you know what? Hey, I could let me check my messages, check my emails. Okay, good. Now we're done.
Yes. Now think about that. All that is a communication device. It's communicating to the next person in line what to expect. And it changes time delay in our psyche. And a CRM does that for your business. Every moment that we're not communicating with our client now and our future clients of what our status is, when we'll arrive, how long we'll be done, every time we don't do that is a loss. And that loss goes exactly to the value driver formula, which means value is peeling away from your service every time we don't communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
Losing value. So you're losing reviews, right? We're losing on the exchange. Like this stuff actually adds up.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, or did I go too far into the
No,
sky here?
literally, not only did you make sense, but it reminded me of an exact situation that I'm experiencing right now that I think would be perfectly. I'll just get into it. You
Yeah.
know how so far everyone that I've ever tried hiring for my property has somehow dropped the service ball?
Yeah.
Let's chalk landscaper to that as well.
Oh, good.
I've got about like 8 inches of grass in the front yard because turns out they just completely reseeded, did a whole terraforming. I'm really proud of it. But the landscaper had an injury and never told me. He said, as soon as the grass is good, I'm going to be coming back. I'm going to be monitoring it. And I'm going to make sure that when it's the right height and everything's good, then I'll come back and cut it. Heard nothing for weeks. Turns out the guy he had an accident of some sort, and I don't blame him for that. But no one from the office, no one communicated to the point where I literally already hired someone else to come take care of it. If
Ouch.
communication had happened, we had kept the relationship.
Yeah. That's
4 weeks
simple.
later, it's like, sorry, I've got 8 inches of grass in the driveway. What are you going to do?
That's simple, man. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And we could go on for a long time on this topic, obviously, but communication, overwhelmed, they don't go hand in hand. If you're
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed, your communication falls, your clients are less happy, things are not good. End of story. A CRM can help that. Administrative assistant can help that, right? Your delegation is required to help at some point as well. So as things fill up, we need to put people in a position to help us with this stuff, right? Your CSR can help with that. But at first, if you're on your own and you're just trying to make this work, you have to guard your time. We
Mm-hmm.
all have to guard our time. And how we do that is by setting ourselves up for success. And what I would recommend at this point, if we're speaking to you today, is to go back to our 4-part series on the active guide to your scheduling, which
Mm-hmm.
was in the early 90s. So 15 episodes ago, roughly.
Mm-hmm. Every time you say early 90s, I'm like, oh, those were good years. It's like, oh God,
Yeah.
it's 30 something years. No.
Yeah. After Brad Nowell and before Kurt Cobain.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, just kidding. But that would be a great place to go. Okay, so CRM, check. Let's get communication knocked off. But let's talk a bit more about protecting this time and how to throttle through that. You've really got a couple options. One, we talked about delegation, but that requires hiring. What if we can't find anyone right now? What if we can't do anything about that right now? Then unfortunately, we've come back to this big beast that's over our shoulder casting a shadow of like,
Mm-hmm.
what's your pricing at? Is your process serving enough value, and are you charging enough, and are you monitoring that conversion rate so that you can fine tune what you do and what you don't? And just before I pass the mic over, I'm going to give you an absolute do not, because this example came up. This is not the time to go work for someone for undefined periods, for undefined rates, without having prior pricing figured out, right? If you're in this position, 12-hour days aren't going to cut it. Not if other people are calling and they need work. Need work done, that is. Does that make sense, Joe?
You're 100% right. And it really, there's something I want to say to everyone who's listening that might help the situation, because I'm sure you all know that you need to change your prices. Like, that's not something that we ever say, like, oh, I know I'm charging enough. Usually it's almost like, no, I'm not charging enough.
Can I insert a quick note there?
Go for it.
We all need to change our prices unless it's been 3 months, because you should be looking at it quarterly. That's my humble opinion.
I
Continue.
completely agree. The thing is that if we all know that we should raise our prices, the thing that usually stops us is the thing we started about at the beginning: fear and anxiety. I remember when I was 165, I truly thought that if I was going to go up by $1, that people were going to literally come after us and say that you're gouging, you're taking advantage of people. And that fear was always the thought of, well, everyone else is charging less than this. They have to be making it work. I want you guys to understand that those people you're talking about, they don't have it all together, because you've seen the numbers. You know what needs to be done and what you need in order to stay profitable. If you're not seeing that in your team with all your effort, what are the odds that someone else with a bigger team is doing it for less? It's not possible. We all need to raise our rates and stop the rat race down to the bottom. We're all better than this. So let's figure a way together.
Yep, 100%. So let's talk about reasons or situations where you wouldn't pass this test, just to really give you both sides of this. If your schedule is not full 2 weeks, you're having troubles filling it 2 weeks, it's not time to raise your prices. There could be multiple things going on, but I wouldn't default to, oh, I should raise my prices.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not currently overwhelmed, obviously, no need to change it. But if you are, keeping in mind that context of, I can't keep up with the current customers, I'm letting people down, I'm not getting paid for work already done, you got to do something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what I would suggest. Now, here's the good news. We have a free tool to help you with this. That's as simple as just sliders. You can watch a little video, you can read a write-up, hit some sliders on our tool, hit submit. It's going to give you your current sold rate as well as your current growth sold rate. What would be the difference, Joe? What would you add
So
in for growth?
So the thing is, the growth rate is saying this is what's going to allow us reach the next level of our vision. And the current rate is saying this is what you need to move things sideways. If you want to keep doing what you're doing, this is the rate you need. But where you should be saying is, I want to grow tomorrow's business today. So you need to be paid for it today.
And that's why, in cases like our one client who hired us just 2 weeks into his business, who was also doing ceiling fan swaps for $150 a piece. And the list goes on of all the cheap little cash deals we negotiate at first, thinking we just need to do something, thinking that if we just come into a marketplace and have a little more value for a little less cost,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll get all the work we need. And that fella Edwin hired us 2 weeks. And at this point, Joe, in fact, let's back it up. Not even at this point, but within 2.5 months, had his first 35K month
Mm-hmm.
because of the pricing increase we did in week 4. So it wasn't even an immediate thing for Edwin either. It was a step up because it had to build some confidence up. And that's okay. So young in a business, the important thing is to recognize where we need to be and work towards that.
Agreed.
Worked hard for leads, found his way to his first 35K month, right? By January, because of a growth rate, this was August, by January, had enough cash in his account to rebrand entirely. Brand new website, brand new van, and a brand new wrap. Now, every job he goes to, people see that person as a premium service provider. That
Mm-hmm.
all came from being priced right, having growth built in. It's not like all of a sudden you're rich. It's like all of a sudden everything I planned for is now afforded by the rate that I charge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, about 10 months, going on 11 months into business, second van, second wrap, journey person working for him. First year of business, not bad, right?
I'll take that. That's a solid path.
All coming from setting your rate right, constantly looking at it, constantly reviewing the budget, like quarterly, I should say, not constantly. Okay, we did a pretty good job of highlighting this emergency. I think we pushed some daggers through some hearts here today, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Law of open cycles is what we were talking about. If you're in this space, if you're feeling that overwhelm, you've got some steps to take. And we want to crank out a couple of immediate action items for you guys here today to help you with this emergency of being overworked and underpaid. Joe, do you want action or all-star today?
I mean, we could take both, but I think there's two actions, all things considered.
All right, let's hear them.
The bare minimum, like, I mean, like literally like below rock bottom, is simply just put your hand up in either this chat or on our page asking for the price tool.
Or at our website, serviceloopelectrical.com, there's forms there. If you click to simplify pricing, it's going to help you out with that.
Even better. All right. The reason why I say that's the bare minimum is because it's not actually changing anything. It just allows you to see what needs to be changed. At least says, okay, I recognize that there is now a problem. We can't fix anything if we can't even admit that there's a problem. So step one, admit that there's a problem. Is that fair for a minimum action assignment?
That is. Yep. Step one. Gotcha.
Step one. The second thing is to actually set a date to which you're going to take action on this price tool. The reason why is, let's say, sake of argument, I'm speaking randomly, let's say you're $100 an hour and your rate tells you need to be $300 an hour. I can imagine that was pretty hard. I dealt with the same thing going from 165 to 380 something, like it goes up. But the fact is that I had kept wanting to delay it. Instead, say, I know I need to charge this rate by this date. If you now can admit that there's a problem, you now have the rate you need to charge, and you've mentally assigned to yourself and to your team that this is a rate at this time, great, go for it.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I actually could think of a third thing, but I don't want to take from your thunder either.
Okay. I know you could, but we're also running out of time. I'm going to jump on the all-star here, and I've got a good
Go
one.
for it.
Okay. I want you to sit back and look at your business for a moment as a separate entity. Okay. And what I mean by that is treat it like it's a person for a moment. Really look at it as a living, breathing, eating, drinking machine. It needs certain things. A business needs cash flow, right? What it's going to need, though, is different than what you're going to need. You're looking for relief. You're overwhelmed. You're in a state of emergency, overworked and underpaid. The business paperwork just adds up. The business is just part of that equation, that overwhelm. So by giving it life for a second, I want you to remove you from you for a second and think, if my business was a person and I asked it right now, what does it need? Business, what do you need first? Here's the list of things that are adding up. What do you need me to do first? Wouldn't a business say, invoice for the fucking work you did? Wouldn't it say, go get paid for the work you did? Wouldn't it say, do the quotes for the work we need next week? Wouldn't it say that stuff? Wouldn't it say, let the people on the schedule know that you're not coming tomorrow morning? Let them know you got to push them out to next week. Wouldn't the business just say that quite simply? That's what it needs. Then go ahead and prioritize and get that stuff done, because that's your future. That makes sense?
On that. Yeah, I was going to say, the only thing I could think of is if the business was talking. Remember, we're all contractors. There's probably going to be a little more swearing when it's talking to you, right?
Yeah. There you go. Okay, we've gone a little bit over, Joe. This has been another episode 107 of Electripreneur Secrets, the Electrician's podcast, where we try to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level electrical service. Counting today, that's been 104 episodes with action items, which means you've got 208 chances so far to improve your business out there by just listening, following along, and taking a little action, guys. Probably more. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Clay Newmeyer. This is my esteemed co-host, Joseph, the sales bot Lucani. Can't wait to see you guys again tomorrow.
Take care.